over. Talking to myself. Yeah. Oh. It's always way too hot when you come back in. All right. The idle animation also needs the same treatment. Unfortunately, I don't think it's that bad. No. I think it's actually in order. I think this one is just gonna be in order as well. Same with the death animation. Because it's not repeated frames that show up here like in a row. Like repeated frames in a row are not part of the sprite order array concept, right? Because if there's like the same sprite in a row like 6 times, that's a duration of 6 rather than 6 frames of the same frame. So the order only comes into play if you have an animation that goes like 0, 1, 2, 1, 0, right? Because then we have to know that we're reusing frames as we reach the end of the animation. And there is no way to get around that. You either do it this way, or you do it in the sprite sheet. So you don't have to do this. Either way, you have to do something. And both ways take time anyway, so. And I think I'm just gonna do this, and if it ends up being wrong somewhere, that's when I'll go and fix it. There, that's done. That's the end of the stream. No, I'm just kidding. I think that's actually all of the animations. At least for Rhea. I haven't really bothered implementing anything else. The Nephiric Shaman has like an idle animation, and I might need to implement that just so I can spawn 2 characters to test combat, but there's currently nothing stopping only having 1 entity in a combat session. So I don't think I need to. I did say I was just kidding, but what the fuck do I do now? Oh, so now we have animations. Now we need to program the module. Ria here has an animation module. And what does that mean? Right? That's the thing. We now have to determine how she should animate. And that's where I'm a little bit unsure, because there are some considerations here, right? Like having an animation controller that is completely custom means that you can do whatever you want with any object. You can animate anything any way you want. That's good. It's a good song. But it also means that I might have to write the entire animation system in every animation, which is retarded. So I think maybe I need to write some modules for the animation system. For example, there are things that are gonna be generic for every type of character and NPC, right? Like having idle up, down, left, right, having walking animation up, down, left, right, those kind of things. And I think we can write modules that can fit in, like just functions, rather. That I can just plug in. That way, I don't have to write all of that shit every time. But let's go take a look at it. If I can find it. Let's go and find it. Let's say that first. Because I don't actually really know. Here we have init animation. Here we have play animation. Animation to play. Run animation manager. This is the bread and butter of the system. So here, what is happening, and this I will have to rewrite this, which is kind of cringe. But what is happening here is that we run the animation manager, and then we check the state of the object using this animation state thing here. And as you can see, what this does is that it runs like this. If LOT animation state is walk, and then somewhere else I have a system that determines what the current state is. So there's a state machine, and then the animation manager reads the state machine and then plays the correct animation. So it's in Unity you have the same thing, like you have a state machine called the mechanism system, where you can do it in many different ways there. You can animate using variables, so you can just check, you know, are we walking left? Then we'll animate that. But you can also animate using like animation timings. So like it flows from one animation to another. For example, if you have a startup, a loop, and then an outro animation for something like an effect or whatever. You don't actually need to use states, you can just use time. Like when this ends, go to this one, when that ends, go to this one. And I guess it's kind of the same here. But this work. It's returning? Return animation to play, but it returns a boolean. So how can it return an animation? But that's a boolean too. I'm not sure how this works exactly. But the question is, like, how would I do this? I don't think I can really modularize this necessarily. I might have to copy paste, which is kind of disgusting. I might be able to. I might be able to actually, because the one thing that is the issue is that here, for example, the way I'm playing this is that I have a scriptable object that just contains like a walk. It contains the walk 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. It contains the combat idle. It contains the, so it has like set variables, but it's not really that big of a deal. Because all I have to do is just make a function that just takes like all of it. It takes an idle, it takes walking, it takes whatever. And that way it can just be like either there's a walk or there's not. If it's null, then it's null, it doesn't exist, and then we just ignore it. And I think I could get that to work. Oh, Jesus Christ. We still need the animation state. So that needs to be determined somewhere. Now, where is that determined? Animation state. Interrupt cast. Hurt. Here, apply damage. Animation state hurt. Animation state equals idle. Apply damage. Animation state equals skill. Get button down, attack. And animation state dot walk or idle. This is old. Because here we have like, this is a controller module, right? So what I want, I actually do want to keep this animation state. Sometimes I just use protected for like no reason. Though it isn't for no reason. It actually does something. It does things here. When you set the animation state, it checks the animation and it runs the manager. So whenever the animation state changes, the animation gets changed and initialized on the fly, which I think might be good. But what I want here is I want an animation state override. Right? The reason I want an override is so that you can just tell something to play something. But I don't know if that's really the way to go about it. It might be, actually. This is also something that can be changed, because this is kind of necessary. I think I might have solved it already. Yeah. So if animation current time is less than or equal to anim frames duration anim dot frames I dot start time plus duration. Public int end time get return start time plus duration. There. Then we can just do end time. Now we don't need a checker, anything like that. Let me add the sprite from the frame. I kind of want animations to have names. internally. Is that stupid? I think that's smart. But I think name doesn't work. It's gonna say something like, no, okay, there's no name. All right, we're not hiding anything. Then let's do name. Now we're gonna have to redo all of these, but whatever. There we go. Error, error, error out the ass. But it'll help because it'll allow me to print more detailed errors instead of everything just being class names. I don't know if I can print the class name itself. Maybe you can. But whatever. There. There. That seems okay. Now, play animation. This doesn't make sense, in my opinion. No, it makes sense. It does make sense. Oh boy. Now this here This is an... These are animation functions, right? These should be moved to a class called animation module. And that's what should be attached. This is not something that should exist on the base object. In reality, most things that are added as objects will be animated, but not necessarily. And the option should be there to not do it. This is one of those things that actually matter when it comes to optimization, because when we're talking about objects, that means that we're going to have to go through the update of each object that we add. That's how objects work. You go through their updates. But not everything has an update. But if there's an animation system, it needs to at least check, like, should I animate? Yes, no. And that check, compared to not doing anything at all, is like infinite more things that you're doing, which immediately reduces how many objects you can have, right? And that's also one of the issues with working with an engine such as Unity or Unreal, where the objects are not tailored to what you need them to be. So, like, Unity objects are like 10 times heavier, I would say, than an object that you may just make yourself that just doesn't have anything in it at all. Like, it's literally just an empty class with an update with nothing in it. And that's it. You know, that's gonna be a billion times faster than Unity's, because Unity's come with a bunch of, like, actually I don't really know what they come with, if they come with anything at all. Maybe they don't, but a Unity object is extremely heavy for whatever fucking reason. I don't know. That's all I know. Doing anything with Unity objects is an absolute joke. You basically have to make your own if you want anything where there's like a lot of objects. Maybe they have some better systems now, but otherwise, no. Like, if you have like 1,000 objects, it's already, like, you're already on the limit. But I think that's also partially because Unity has a physics system that you pretty much can't disable. So, like, every object goes through it, no matter what, I think, to some degree. Which doesn't help. I don't particularly like physics systems for movement and stuff like that. That's for 3D. You can do it for 2D, but for pixel art, you like, if you're not making a physics-based game, and even then, I would not use a physics system for movement. Especially not Unity's, because it's fucking garbage. But it's very easy to make a basic physics engine. Like, it's super easy. Making a good one, on the other hand, might be hard, but making basic physics functionality very, 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 very easy. It's basically just an extension of a regular movement system. with like added weight and stuff like that. You just move things in a different manner, and then when they collide, you do different things. And we don't need that. Oh. This script should be deleted. That's the end. The end goal right now is to delete this script. And we'll see how that goes. I think that might be a little difficult. But that is the current goal. Everything in here, and it's a lot. It is a lot. It's not that much, actually. It's to about here. We got, let's see what we have. Hit shake, hit strength, hit shake duration. This is a little questionable. Is this an animation? Like, is this part of the combat module or the animation module? It's kind of both. So that's a little, I guess, but I think it's going to be part of the animation module. And here we have like skills and items, combat turn, execution triggers. I barely even know what that is, dude. Command stage, action points. Action points, current energy, max energy, action points, damage multipliers, status effects, bleeds, targets, target tile, turns, action to trigger, unit team, stability barrier, revivable dead. All of these things should be a combat class. Not something to be inherited, but something to be slotted in. I don't think it'll be that hard. The thing that makes it difficult is that I'm gonna have to go in everywhere. Like, everywhere that talks with anything from here is gonna need to be changed to like dot combat module. So that it's gonna be the same pretty much, but it's just gonna be dot combat module. I think. I think the combat module should be generic. It shouldn't be like RIA combat module or whatever. It should just be combat module. Because any behavior that's custom should always be in a behavior mod. That should be a different thing, behavior module. And if you've played like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, not 3, you might know that there are, like if you go into the character screen or the character sheet, there's a list. You can go in there and there's a bunch of scripts that you can apply to characters that change their behavior entirely. That's the idea. That's how it should be. You have like behavior, and then you can slot the behavior in, and the default behavior is just gonna be like player behavior, and that's just gonna be like one boolean inside of that module, and it's just gonna say player, yes, no, and then it's just gonna hand over control to the player. Godot is my absolute favorite engine after years. I try so many. For 3D it's maybe not the best, but I develop only 2D games. Works also very good in C# and other languages like C++. Alright, sounds great. I just don't really like the community around it, that's my issue. And the developers, so that's the main reason I don't want to use it. But if you don't care, then that's up to you. Are you using Godot? No, we're using Unity for the time being. Then I'm gonna switch to Monogame. Because I don't like Unity as a company either. But Max is using Godot. Oh. But I'm using Unity very little. Everything pretty much is custom, more or less. Because I don't really want to rely on Unity. So like I've written my own animation systems and animators and rendering and menus and buttons and sliders, etc. Unity is a company that I don't feel like I can trust long term, so I don't want to build an engine in Unity and then be completely beholden to Unity as a company going forward, because they do stupid shit constantly and I'm tired of it. That's why I'm gonna move to something like Monogame. Something that's more open source, more basic, you know. It doesn't come with a UI or anything. It's just a framework to work in, and I prefer that. I don't even like using Unity's editor for anything. Like, this is my current scene, and almost all of this is just like a camera, like one object, and the rest are like canvases for UI. Which is a problem, to be honest, because I'm gonna have to redo that. But yeah. I think we'll have to make your own engine in the near future. No, it's I'm making my engine now. It works. We have a rendering, we have a level editor, we have animations, it can play audio. It's an engine inside of Unity. Like, I've written an engine that just uses Unity as a framework and like a launch pad, kinda. Like, Unity helps me grab inputs and it helps me export the game. But that's about it, I would say. And it's also, in my opinion, the way to use an engine, more or less. Depending on the engine. I think for Unity especially that is the case. For Unreal you can probably use Unreal stuff more heavily, but when you use a big engine, it's generalized, right? Like, it's generalized to be able to do anything. And because of that, it is bloated. And that makes it run worse. Like, Unreal games do not run well at all. Partially because programmers are not very good at doing things with it. AAA games have super, like, they have code that nobody knows how it works anymore, I would say. And, also because it's an engine. That's the thing. Like, pre-built engine can only do so much. You have to cut out some fat if you want it to actually run well. To me, working in like Unity or whatever, like you especially like I can't really comment that much on Unreal. I haven't worked that much with it, but working with Unity, I would say that almost everything that Unity has to offer you should not be used. It's like all prototyping shit. You should not rely on it. Like even Unity's UI functions and whatever, they're questionable. Unity's animation system is questionable. They're usable, but there are very questionable things with them, and they have a tendency to break. And if they break, you're fucked. You don't have any control over it because Unity is proprietary. You need to pay them shitloads of money to get access to any backend, or just email them and hope that they can help you. And that sucks. That's something I will give Godot. Like I don't really like Godot. I don't like I've said, I don't like the developers. I don't like the community. But it is open source, as far as I know, which is pretty good actually. So like if there are any problems, if you are a decent programmer, you can go in and maybe change something or fix something, or you know, you do have the ability to do that. Not with Unity, not with Unreal. With Unity, you can run into bugs that literally break your project, and like you can't do anything for like a year because they won't fix it unless you do something else. Just change what you're doing and work around it. I've seen developers get stuck on that before. I don't think it's a smart idea to wait for them to fix anything, so, you know, you kind of gotta work around it. But, it can happen. But yeah, I wanted to go for another hour, but I can't. My brain is cooked. I'm still trying to get back to working full time, and I'm not even close. So, but we are getting a lot more done, which is good. It's a lot to think about. Yeah, I mean, it also depends on your goals. Because for me, I'm making an engine that I mean to use for multiple projects going forward. Like, I want this to be one, like, I still want to make more engines for our company going forward, but this should be the engine that our mainline games operate off of. So that's why I'm putting in a lot of time and energy into making it be a stable ground for us to work on, right? But if you're really only making like smaller indie games and stuff like that, then I don't think it really matters as much. Like, then it's more like up to you. But I think for any like larger thing or more long term, like my rendering code is like 5,000 lines. This is HLSL shader code that I've written. And you don't need to do this. You can just use Unity's like standard shader if you don't want to do anything fancy. I've programmed ray casting for shadows and light and stuff like that. So that's why, like, I think it's fine to just use whatever you want if you're not not that experienced, and or you don't have that like lofty goals when it comes to what you want to make or what you want to do. So it's not like a blanket statement either. Like, I think Unity is decent. You can make whatever game you want in Unity. There's nothing stopping you. It's good for 2D, it's good for 3D. I don't think Godot is like better for 2D in any way. It might be easier to approach and like learn, but there's like nothing in Unity that would make 2D any harder at all. I guess it really depends on if it has any built-in functions that you want to rely on. Like maybe it comes with better tile mapping support or something. Unity's tile mapping system is fucking garbage. But I wouldn't suggest using the built-in one anyway. Like even if it's in Godot or whatever. It's one of those things that I think is better to almost make on your own. But that's also really hard. Takes a lot of effort. Especially since you might have to make your own editor for it. So at the end of the day, the engine does matter a lot less than your ability to use the engine and not do stupid things and come up with good solutions. And most people come up with really bad solutions that are terrible. And that often gives the engine a bad reputation as well. Unity has a much worse reputation than it deserves. It's actually pretty easy to use and pretty good overall. But there was a while when every like scammer used Unity and made like scam games, put them on Steam. They all had like the Unity engine logo when it started, and that's how you knew a game was gonna be dog shit. And also a lot of Unity developers are new, like they're beginners, and often they're like young. And young people don't have the same gaming background that old people do, like me. So they often don't really understand how games were made back in the day. And that's extremely valuable information because a lot of people just kind of brute force solutions, which ends up with like really shitty performance. Like you can play a random indie game that just looks like Stardew Valley and it runs at like 23 FPS and has like lag spikes constantly. That has nothing to do with Unity. That's just bad programming. So at the end of the day, I'm not really advocating for like Unity or Unreal or Godot. It really just boils down to which one you prefer, because you can work with any of them. As long as you don't use Game Maker. That's all I'll say. But Game Maker 2 is a lot better than Game Maker 1 was. Game Maker 1.4 was fucking garbage. And a lot of people still try to like brute force using it, and like that's a mistake. Using RPG Maker, also huge mistake. Never ever do that. You should never, like, if you want to do game development, you should never try to take too many shortcuts. Like, if programming seems too hard for you, then you can't make games. It's like you can't rely on like visual programming, like using only Unreal blueprints. I mean, you can, but it's gonna be like dog shit most likely. You just have to learn to program, and you just have to figure out like which language works for me, with what's too much. Like I wouldn't want to learn C++. So I'm sticking to Unity because it has C#. Godot also has C#. C# is really easy. C++ is super hard. What was the problem with Game Maker 1? Literally all of it. Like, there's nothing that isn't a problem with it. The only thing that is good about it is that the programming is easy to learn. but that's because it's not real programming. It's like a scripting language, and what that means is that they have like pre-created solutions. Like if you want to check if your sprite is like touching a wall, that's like one command that they have in their scripting language. You just type in like check collision or whatever. But it's bad because it's not actually like any other programming language in reality. So you're like not really learning much from it. You're only learning how to make game maker games. And the entire like it was like a closed system. So if you made, you had to use it was called like a room maker or a room editor to create maps. So they had this built-in like tile mapping system, and it was atrocious to work with. Like making a map in that thing, it was like, imagine that you're trying to make like an old school Super Nintendo Final Fantasy game or something, and you're trying to make the entire like level that your intro sequence takes place in, right? But you have to make it in Minecraft creative mode. That's what Game Maker is like. And it's not very nice. It's really bad. I'm not the best programmer, but I have a lot of experience. Performance is my most important point. My game runs at 3000 FPS with a lot of objects and collision detection. I have no freezes or spikes. I'm not a good programmer. Well, I don't know about that. I think people have actually done that in Minecraft. People have made computers in Minecraft, so yes. It's just the engine. No, it's not just the engine. You're probably a good programmer, Max. Because it's just that you don't realize it, because you don't know what a bad programmer is like, and they're really bad. They just... Minecraft has more tools than Game Maker. Not by default, but it's not far off. Like, kind of. Game Maker 1.4 is not very good now. But yeah. Well, we're gonna stop here. I'm dying. And, I can't do anything more anyway, because my brain is not with us anymore. It is gone. But I know what to do. I use C# instead, the Godot language. Godot language is mega slow, it's like Python. Yes, it's exactly like... what is it called? GML? Or is it GSL? Or Game Maker? I think it's just called Game Maker language. It's a script, like... Godot language is a scripting language. It's not a programming language. In the same way. I don't know. I'm kind of pulling that out of my ass. Like, I'm not really educated. I'm not an educated programmer. I don't know fucking anything. But that's basically it, you know, because when it comes to programming languages, you have high level and low level languages. And the lower level of programming language is, that means it's lower, like closer to machine code or closer to binary, right? So the higher language you have, the more someone has like written functions that simplify things, like they manage memory or stuff like that for you. That's what a high level language means. High level means it's easy. So the higher level it is, the easier it is. C# is a very high level programming language, but it's like if C plus, or if C is like down here, C is like up here, then game maker language is like at at the ceiling. I don't know exactly about Godot, like GD script, but yeah, that's kind of it. And that's why I think C# is a good middle point, because C# is as easy as any other like high level scripting language. There is no like difficulty gap between working with C# and working with like Python or Java or whatever. There's no difficulty difference. In fact, those languages are almost harder in my opinion, because they're too high level. Like there's too much that's done for you. While C++, there's too much that you have to deal with and know. Like that you actually like have to study to be able to pick up C++. While C#, you can just watch literally one 30-minute video on YouTube and you're done. You're good to go. Like it's that easy. The hard part is learning how to get started. And that just means like you just find a project video series on YouTube and you just follow it. And they'll show you like, this is how you get started. This is how you set up a project. This is how you compile. And once you know that, you know, that's where you can start getting things done and actually figuring things out yourself. That's how easy C# is. While in C++, you have to learn what like a pointer is, what a reference is, how to like dereference shit, and you know. I'm not gonna do that. And in almost every use case, C# is just as good as C++, so it doesn't really matter. It's very extreme cases where you would need C++ instead of C#, I would say. Especially with today's computers. You can use C++ in Godot, but it's not easy. Godot is written in C++ and has C++ support for developers. Alright. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I recommend Monogame. The issue with the Monogame is that you don't have a UI to work with. It's more like just coding. It just gives you tools to work with. And the community is not as large as Unity or Godot or whatever, so if you run into issues, there's not as many like videos or whatever, but it's a good engine, and it's a lot more lightweight, but it is also more advanced. But if that doesn't bother you, then I strongly recommend looking at Monogame over the other engines. Especially since it's also free to use. You don't need to pay any fees, you don't need to do anything, you don't need any licenses. But it also might not come with all the features that like Unity might, like exporting easy to phones or whatever, like it depends on what you want to do. But now I'm gonna actually go for real, so I'll see you later. I'll probably stream some Ragnarok tonight. Maybe, I'm not sure. Feel kind of shitty this week, so I don't know. But I'll see you Monday, hopefully. Otherwise, for more programming. Thanks for hanging. I'll be around. Bye-bye.